There has been a funeral. You don't just go to a bit of a funeral.
It's interesting, isn't it, that people think that nature is somewhere you go. Mm-hmm. When we use that language, I'm going out into nature. Although not to underestimate how quickly a light thing like being tidy can become quite a heavy thing, or the straw that breaks the camel's back.
There is a human bias towards negativity, isn't there? We have a Teflon ability to be able to hold on to positivity and a Velcro ability to hold on to negativity. It keeps us alive, it's part of our survival mechanism.
We're very good at giving less positive feedback. That negative bias and living in a critical world and performative world, particularly in the world of work.
If we're looking out and we're aware of danger or negativity, we're more likely to survive and thrive as a species, and we've done all right, maybe a bit too well.
What might we do in order to balance our propensity for negative bias or behaviour, and sometimes feedback, with acknowledging and reaffirming positive behaviours, traits, the fact that we actually like being around one another?
It's very rare that we're actually able to be fully open with the people around us.
I think the greatest gift that we are able to give both ourselves and others is presence.
And that's where it becomes even more personal. That's where that person that we're delivering that praise, that recognition, that's when they really start to feel seen. That's the difference between thanks, cheers, nice one.
Sometimes when Michelle and I are together, I step back from that mentally and remind myself that Michelle is a queen.
We carry shit with us. We are burdened by it. We have a propensity towards negativity. It's much easier to, for fuck's sake, they've left their shoes out again. Oh, God, could they not just do that thing?
It's a moment, but allowing it to be a moment. There's a way out for both of us here. I think it can shift behaviours. It can shift the culture within your relationship by degrees.
I think we can all, as human beings, be a little bit more explicit a little bit more of the time. Not all of the time, but there's a window, there's an invitation there to be something other.
Mosquitoes. I wonder why it's mosquitoes, Karl.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure.
We'll need to look that up on the internet.
Why we do that for mosquitoes?
Well, that clap thing was so that there was a spike in the edit so that you could see where a cut came in. But we don't need that either.
We're so polished.
Yeah, podcast 10.
Podcast 10.
How exciting is that? Double digits.
I know, we've made it.
I know, we're going to need merch next.
Well,
we've already got merch.
We're doing tattoos, I think, and branding.
You might be.
Yeah.
Literally branding in a kind of Yellowstone type way. Abstract reference to Kevin Costner's masterpiece. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Yeah. It's been an interesting week. We're sitting here. The sun's out. It's now just come out. There's blossom on your trees.
Yeah.
It's turning. There is a tide that's turning. I've had some death in the family, so I've had a bit of a funeral. Not a bit of a funeral. There has been a funeral. You don't just go to a bit of a funeral.
Half-past funeral.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it happens though, doesn't it? And we will get onto it inevitably with talking
absolutely.
About
circle of life, not without being flippant.
No. Death will become of us, and it will be a podcast and some content that we'll put out there as well. It's good, and we're off in the caravan this weekend for just up the road here, 15 minutes away. Go and take the caravan out, give the boys some time in nature. So that would be good.
Yeah, that's good, isn't it? I mean, caravanning and camping. It doesn't really matter how far you go, because you kind of still end up in the middle of nowhere, and it's that whole experience can be. It's quite visceral as a child. It's great fun because it's just not home, right?
No, that's it. There'll be less screen time, which might be a bit of a challenge for them, but that's okay. We navigate that on the weekends anyway. Looking forward to it. Some time out in nature. The weather's going to be good. We get some clean, fresh air. And some time of just slowing things right down.
It's interesting, isn't it? We'll talk about this another time as well, that people think that nature is somewhere you go. Mm-hmm. Where we use that language, I'm going out into nature. And it's like, but you're already in it. It's kind of everywhere. Although some of this is rather synthetic and it's obviously different from a forest. But I love that. I'm going into nature.
Wish me luck.
Well, good luck with it.
Yeah.
Hopefully you'll be around next week for podcast 11. Otherwise, this will be a solo thing.
if the bears haven't got us by then.
Wow.
Yeah. How's your week been?
Yeah, it's been good. I love spring. I love it a lot. I love that it's not warm, but it's not really cold, so you don't quite know what to wear and either end up with too much or too little on. And I just love how energetic is the wrong word, but just how springy spring is. You know what I mean? It's like all the plants are like, hello, I'm here, I'm back. And, we were talking before we started recording about whether trees know how beautiful they are, particularly things like cherry blossoms and apple trees and pear trees. They're absolutely stunning. And so that crisp morning where it's a lovely light, but it's not warm, and you've got a foot in both camps. It's one of my, there's only 4 seasons to pick from, but it's definitely in my top 2.
With your second one being?
Probably autumn.
Yeah.
Because I love that kind of brown leaves and kicking leaves and arboretums. There's a word you don't say very often. But that turn of temperature and rediscovering where your jumpers are in your wardrobe, all of that's quite nice. Summer, I'm okay with it. It's okay. I mean, I like a warm day as much as the next person in a barbecue. And winter is fine for wintering. So I love them all. Where is this going? But I love them all. But I love spring. Spring's it's not pretentious, but it's definitely sort of like it is what it is. It's, hello. So it's been a good week. I've tried to be more positive. We've talked before about whether I'm grumpy or just had things to carry that have made life a little bit harder. So I'm experimenting with being more friendly and nicer. It's going well, or so people have said.
This is off the back of last week. You said before we came on that there's been a bit more of a directed effort, conscientious effort, maybe around the house in the way that you're bringing yourself.
Sure. We talked last week about this idea of being able to give our partners significant feedback without it being incendiary. And Michelle and I experimented with that. There was some heavier stuff and some lighter stuff, although not to underestimate how quickly a light thing like being tidy can become quite a heavy thing, or the straw that breaks the camel's back. I think both of us have been intentionally much more thoughtful, and I've particularly tried to be nice and tried to be emotionally available and tried to be jolly. And after a while, it becomes a learnt behaviour, new neural pathways. It becomes the norm rather than the exception. It's only been a week. We were talking about the framework and system in podcast 9 and intentionally working through the insights generated this week. And that it's early doors, but it's going well. I can imagine that some people who listened would have considered that that's quite a negatively biased conversation. Intentionally, we are presenting our partners with our perception of them at their worst. And we did talk about closing that conversation with something positive, but today we want to touch a little bit more on positive affirmation and feedback.
Yeah, just to expand it. And we were being very stark, very honest, very raw. There is a human bias towards negativity, isn't there? We have a Teflon ability to be able to hold on to positivity and a Velcro ability. It's inbuilt in us, a Velcro ability to hold on to negativity. It keeps us alive. It's part of our survival mechanism. If we're looking out and we're aware of danger or negativity, we're more likely to survive and thrive as a species, and we've done all right, maybe a bit too well. So that's good. That's really, really important. But I think it's also helpful to add balance and go, okay, these might be things that I'm not particularly au fait with how you show up in my life. They're triggering for me, but there are some things that I think you do incredibly well. One of the things we spoke about this morning was in a relationship, after a period of time, it's very easy that we just take the other person for granted. Mm-hmm. We share that space. We expect them to be there, sometimes through gritted teeth, sometimes with a smile, sometimes with a cuddle and a hug. But the fact that we are with them so much of the time means that we can often not truly see them. We can show up in the same space. We might be living under the same roof, but living very, very different and separate lives as well.
Yeah, absolutely. That expression is a well-trodden path. You're just taking me for granted. How do we see that as an opportunity? What might we do in order to balance our propensity for negative bias or behaviour and sometimes feedback? Bloody hell, you've left your shoes out again. with acknowledging and reaffirming or affirming positive behaviours, traits, the fact that we actually like being around one another.
Well, yeah, and that's really important as well, is that we might think these things. And I would imagine that most of the people that are listening to this are probably thinking, well, I do have quite a good relationship with the person I live with in a number of different ways, but maybe that just stays inside our head. Maybe we're not actually projecting that and saying that explicitly. It might be implied, and particularly in a relationship. I've been with my wife, it will be 20 years this year. We've been married 13 this year. To be confirmed. I'm sure that's the case. But it's been a good chunk of time, and it's very easy to imply my gratitude and my thanks for them being there, for them doing the things that they do. We had a really my wife and I had a great in-depth conversation last night about something I've been struggling with for a little while, and she was there as a sounding board and to offer advice and to offer her opinion in a balanced and supportive way. And it's very easy to go, thanks for that, without explicitly naming what I am thankful for. She said, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
She knew, but did she really know what I was being grateful and thankful for? She was aware that we were able to expand on a conversation as a result of her inquisitiveness into what I was struggling with. But was I really explicit? Could I be even more explicit? And I tried this morning. I tried to say to her, thank you so much for having that time to have that conversation and that chat last night. It was really helpful for me. And again, I was stumbling over my words.
Why was that?
I think it's because it's very rare that we're actually able to be fully open with the people around us.
Mm-hmm.
Might be easier with the kids that we have. I have a 6 and a 9-year-old. It's much easier and more streamlined, more spontaneous for me to praise them and be really explicit about what I'm praising them for as well.
Okay, because that's a learnt behaviour.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm being very directive. That thing that you've done, that's incredible. That picture that you've drawn, that's really great. I love the colouring in. I love what you've written there, as an example. Maybe it's because I'm seeing something novel, something new in our boys' behaviour, whereas perhaps it's something I've seen over a couple of decades in mine and Nicole's relationship, that it just goes a little bit more hidden. Mm-hmm. We don't truly see it. We don't truly see the value in that as well.
Do you think it's because we don't see it, or because it's the norm? We don't necessarily take the time to identify it and to praise it. Now, are we talking here about bunches of flowers every week? Is that the territory we're in? Because this could get a very expensive podcast, and
it could get very, very expensive. No, it's a skateboard every week for our partner.
Wow, I love it.
Yeah, I thought you'd be on board.
Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be a grandiose gesture. It's not about that. I think just going, I really appreciate the thing that you did for me.
Mm-hmm.
Once a week, once every 10 days, just naming it. We might be thinking it. We might be really, really grateful for something that they've been able to do. Thanks for taking the kids that night. Thanks for stepping in and for helping me out with this or with that thing. There are lots of examples I could think of, but I know that they're not examples that I would identify to Nicole explicitly.
Okay. There's a practice in consulting from whence I came where it's called the 9 whys. And so you would ask a client what a particular challenge was in their business, and they would give you a comparatively superficial answer or a simple answer. And then you would ask why. Why is that the case? And then they would give you another answer, and you go, why is that the case? And you keep digging until you become annoying, or you've really got a very rounded sense of what the opportunity or the challenge might be. And I wonder if we could apply that when you're talking about, thank you very much, I really appreciate that act of service or that gesture. I wonder if we could take time and be present enough to then say why and how that's either made us feel or behave, or what opportunity that created for us, to give the second layer of feedback.
Absolutely. And that's where it becomes even more personal. That's where that person that we're delivering that praise, that recognition for, that's when they really start to feel seen. That's the difference between thanks, cheers, nice one.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give an example?
Sure. I mean, last night, for example, it was about 5 o'clock and I was upstairs working, and Michelle very kindly delivered a plate of food. And I hadn't had the conversation about who was making dinner, We hadn't got to that bit of the day yet. I was still in the thick of my work. We were both going to be doing something at sort of 6:30. At some point, the question would have come up, okay, who's making what, or what are we going to eat? And yet, unannounced, this plate of food arrived at my desk. Now, I'm not a huge advocate of eating food and doing work at the same time. However, the unlock was that I could easily then spend the next 45 minutes both eating and emailing, which released a period of time for me that if I had been making the food or even sharing the experience of making food, I wouldn't have had. I did say thank you, because it's not surprising that Michelle cooks. She does it all the time, but unprompted, this wonderful meal had arrived. However, what I could have done was say what that then released me to be able to do, and how important that time was, and what the unlock had been in that gesture. Not in the pursuit of then Michelle cooking every night, that's not the point, but just how grateful I was in the moment. And perhaps, I can probably do this today, but ensuring that, I took the moment. Given the fact I just gained 45 minutes, I could have taken 1 minute to go, okay, this has enabled me to do something that seemingly was incredibly important. So there's an example. What about for yourself, Karl?
Yeah, great example. And it's such a workable, realistic, day-by-day, hidden gesture as well, isn't it? Michelle probably knew the reasons why that was going to be helpful for you. She was probably aware in making the meal and preparing it for you, not calling you downstairs to be able to do that process of cooking and then eating. She was probably aware that she was gifting you something. And that's part of the reason why she was doing it.
And she also knew that I knew that I was being enabled to do something. But it still remained unsaid.
It's implied, isn't it?
There was a contract.
Yeah.
And it's implicit within that. It's beautiful. And yet there's an opportunity to just put a cherry on top of it and go, okay, I'm just going to take a moment to acknowledge this and sort of suggest why it's so appreciated. Like you say, to be seen. I think the greatest gift that we are able to give both ourselves and others is presence. And I don't mean presence as in sort of boxes with bows on it, although the metaphor kind of works, but actually our mental, physical presence, the acknowledgement, just to turn and look at someone and go, okay, I really appreciate that, because maybe it's that because word that we add and then we say why it is.
Digging that a little bit deeper. I know, Nicole, I cleared out the caravan. I took my wing foiling kit out of there with the many
Right, must
wings.
have taken you, how many days did that take?
All week.
Yeah.
And
you just bought another shed, a shed on wheels.
I have, pretty much so, just to put more sports kit into. And she asked me to clear it out this morning. And what she has done this morning is that she has now taken food from the cupboards, put it into bags. She's prepping ideas for not meal making, but what do we need? What bedding do we need? What stuff do we need from the cupboards? What stuff do the boys need? What toys? What games can they play with? I know that she is getting that ready this morning, so as that when the boys finish school this afternoon, we can put everything in the car, hook up and drive 15 minutes up the road. I could, and I will, be explicit with why that's really, really helpful. What that's afforded me to be able to do this morning as well. A little bit of work at home, a bit of exercise, and now coming and doing this with you as well. It's hidden. Those gestures are really, really hidden so much of the time. And perhaps that's how you navigate in a relationship after a while. You move and circumnavigate, move around one another, and you kind of have these roles that you take on board for one another, and you do things for yourself in that sense as well. But I think we could. There's an opportunity there in being a little bit more explicit in knowing, in informing the other person why, and that because it's made a difference to me in my life.
Yeah, it's strengthening that bond. Sometimes I think when Michelle and I are together and you're going through the motions of the day-to-day, sometimes I step back from that mentally and remind myself that Michelle is a queen and incredible. And in our early courtship, I might have dated Michelle, or I might have opened a door, or I might have been incredibly complimentary. And remind myself that that is still entirely appropriate, that if I make the effort to find something interesting for us both to do, to get out of my skate clothes or my day clothes and make an effort so that I look well presented, that I make good time so that I'm not multitasking, I'm not continuing to slack when I'm meant to be having dinner. These things, that not taking someone for granted, but reminding myself and them that they're still queen and still important, I think, can be the force, the energy that maintains those positive aspects. And of course, people, when they receive feedback that's positive, are going to get a little dopamine hit, and that can begin to become a really beneficial but new behaviour.
It's a muscle, isn't it, that can be worked both in terms of receiving, because it can feel quite clunky to receive a compliment or to receive praise to begin with. You gave the example of, that's a nice T-shirt, that's a really nice T-shirt you're wearing, I really like the design and the fit for you. And you might say,
well, I just threw it on.
Yeah.
I think because we're very good at giving less positive feedback, that negative bias and living in a critical world and performative world, particularly in the world of work. And yet we all know what it's like when we receive praise. To be able to bring that into the context of a relationship, super important. I wonder how we balance that. This could start to sound a little bit Disney as a relationship where there's lots of little birds and lots of blooming flowers, and it's all very beautiful. It's a muscle to be trained, but it's not going to happen all the time, right? We're not creating rose-tinted glasses here.
No, we carry shit with us. We are burdened by it. We know we have a propensity towards negativity. It's much easier to, for fuck's sake, they've left their shoes out again. Oh, God, could they not just do that thing? And sometimes it's quite hard to do that at home. Sometimes home is quite a loaded, charged space. We might take that out. We might just start to recognise, oh, isn't that a nice tree, or oh, isn't that person over there doing something, or don't they smell nice? I've got a great example of something in public which is quite jarring, and it's something that triggers in me.
You're going to have to go on.
Yeah. So it might be easier to say to a female, I might find it easier to say to a female, I love that perfume. Mm-hmm. Smells really nice. There are men who walk past and I think that aftershave is really, really nice. But there is a huge part of me that cannot give that person the praise and inquire as to what that aftershave is. There's something triggered in me and blocky in me that will not allow me to say to you, for example, oh, I really like your aftershave. What is that? There's something...
This is just the way I am, Karl. This is just the way I smell every day.
It's beautiful, man.
I'm going to bottle it.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
That's really, really layered. That's incredibly layered. I think there are perhaps people that we find it easier to give praise to. Children, maybe members of the opposite sex, perhaps, or people that we're attracted to. I would think it's down to my beliefs around that guy's perception of me.
Right, so it's projection.
It's projection, absolutely. And although I might like the smell, or really like the smell of his aftershave, I project that they are thinking something about me in me praising them and inquiring about their aftershave. This is pivoted really quickly, isn't it?
Yeah, that went from giving praise to your partner to wanting to say nice things about people's aftershaves. I think it's about increasing one's comfort in a vulnerable situation. May not start with aftershave, but a man giving another man a compliment about, okay, I really like the cut of your trousers. I think my entire life is dedicated to the pursuit of the perfect pair of very large balloon trousers, for whatever reason. There's a guy called David Cam who's an amazing yoga teacher. He's much more than a yoga teacher. He's a movement specialist and a beautiful person in every way. But he also has the most incredible pantaloon trousers, but is vague about where he gets them from. So whenever I see a guy wearing absolutely lovely trousers, I've developed this tendency to go and ask them where they're from. And you can see that first few moments is awkward because I'm praising how somebody's attire is. Then I'm sort of inquiring as to, okay, well, what's the brand and where did you get them? Typically, I don't get punched in the face, and actually that person sort of says, okay, well, I bought these because I like the way they make me feel and the way that I look, and now that is being qualified by another guy, and that feels like an affirmation of one's style or one's taste. So yeah, I've never been sort of like told to fuck off or punched in the face. But it's not a typical behaviour, is it?
It's not, but the value in that, you're seeing someone else, they're being seen, and you're also communing with someone that we would perhaps normally just block. How much of life, we're both reading the Good Life book. I can't remember the name of the author at the moment, but it's about a longitudinal study from Harvard University extending over 80 years. And there is a task that they ask some of the participants. It's about travelling home on a train journey. And they give one group of the participants the task of not speaking to anyone. And they give the other group of participants the task of starting up a conversation with someone on the train. And at the end of it, they ask how that train journey was. And they're looking for quality, they're looking for enjoyment and pleasure within that train journey. And although the initial conversation might have felt clunky in connecting with another person, a stranger on the train, the value that that person felt at the end of that train journey was so much more when they had connected with someone. Maybe when they'd enjoyed the cut of their trouser or commented on their aftershave or something else. But the value that they took from that, and inevitably the participant, you would imagine, was so much greater because we communicated, we said something in there.
Yeah. I think that this is a bit like an onion. We might start with the easy stuff as we're practicing this. Like, I think it's quite normal for blokes to say to one another, nice car, mate.
Yeah.
Nice motor. And the closer you get to the person, then you might go, I like the cut of your trousers or your sartorial elegance. When you get to someone's scent, you are quite close by that point. Yeah. I think it's also useful to be able to, in that environment, in that situation, to give the door by which you're both going to exit the car, because there'll be a momentary exchange, particularly if this is someone you don't know. I've done this more recently on the train. I've said hello, maybe made a comment about something pretty banal, like, I really like that rucksack. Have a great day carrying your rucksack. I'm not being literal about that, but I'm sort of going, it's okay to have this transaction, and then I'm going to give us both a door by which I'm not expecting to then have a 1.5 hour conversation all the way to Farringdon about every aspect of that male selection of things, or necessarily any other. It's a moment, but allowing it to be a moment and say, okay, there's a way out for both of us here from what is momentary intimacy to strangers on a train. Yeah. Back to the relationships with our significant others. I think that it is a real opportunity just to take that moment, and I think combining that with the work that we did last week, with this acknowledgement that there are things which perhaps upset, disturb, disappoint our partners, balanced against this complementary idea of being able to give positive feedback, I think it can shift behaviours, right? It can shift the culture within your relationship by degrees.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it offers it offers a moment of truth. And that can feel quite uncomfortable, whether that's being really truthful with someone about something that's irking you, or really truthful about something that actually really pleases you about that behaviour. We're looking at something beneath the surface communication style that we might have on a day-by-day basis that is pretty shallow, probably, at most of the time. It's just allowing something a little bit deeper to see that person and to be seen and just, to be honest with them. And also, I think, yourself as well. And
acknowledging that together you are making progress. I've felt this week, for example, in putting things where the origin of in the house, putting things away, closing doors. I've done it because I've thought of how that will make Michelle feel. Now, I'm not asking, nor do I expect Michelle to sit me down and sort of say, I've really appreciated that the cupboards haven't been open all week, because that's what I need and my attachment style. But what I can do is simply acknowledge the things that I know that she has done, whether it's in light of that conversation a couple of weeks ago or because she's just a wonderful person. I can imagine that all of the men in Shoreham are going to, for the next 2 or 3 weeks, are going to be absolutely delightful, and that the women in Shoreham will thank us for this epiphanous moment.
Yeah. With added balance, we spoke about the negativity, things that we might be seeing in someone. We're given an opportunity. I just want to add to that. there might be a chance for perhaps you and Michelle to go, that thing that you've started doing, I really appreciate that you're doing that for me now. As an example, doesn't have to be. It might just be simply implied again. But I think we can all, as human beings, be a little bit more explicit a little bit more of the time. Not all of the time, but there's a window, there's an invitation there to be something other.
Absolutely. To acknowledge the effort and investment being made and to say that it would be positive if it continued, such that it becomes a trained muscle. I'm not suggesting that I will close every door for the rest of our time together. I see that as like, okay, we're progressing, we're making positive progress together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Where will we go in podcast 11, Karl?
So we've been looking at intimate relationships or marital or home relationships with our partners. I think, and we've touched a little bit outside of the house. We've looked at the cut of people's jib or their trousers. We've appreciated the scent or the smell or the rucksack of someone.
The rucksack of someone. I love that. I love the rucksack of you.
Yeah, thanks very much.
That's brilliant.
Rucksack smells are often not very nice either. I've got a bag that definitely needs a bit of a wash.
Okay.
That's a different podcast.
Yeah.
I think we should take it out of the intimate relationships that we have with our partners, and we're going to look, maybe work is going to be something that we're going to start, I think, to nudge towards as a relational conversation.
Yeah, work is, for many of us, not only a significant proportion of our time, but a lot about our identity, our value system, meaning, purpose. It's not insignificant.
Not at all. We might even spend more time with our work colleagues than we do with our relational partners and spouses at home.
I certainly spend less time sniffing them, but I think...
What do you do at work?
Well, that's a question my colleagues often ask me pretty much every week. I look forward to that because it is important. And in midlife especially, there is often a question of what am I doing? Why am I doing it? What am I turning up for? So I think there's not only our behaviours and our relationships within work, but our relationship with a sense of purpose, meaning, and what that means for the years ahead. I look forward to that conversation. So, top tips as we exit today. Take time to stop for a moment and acknowledge and appreciate and affirm a positive interaction with a significant other.
Yeah, be a little bit more explicit, if possible. Even if it's just with yourself. Can I be honest with myself about the thing that I'm feeling towards that person to begin with? Can I then eventually, over time, start to open my mouth and express that explicitly? Because
sometimes our vocabulary is quite limited. We take the 7 emotions. I'm angry, or I'm joyful, or I'm fearful, and yet the opportunity is to say, okay, well, let's go to the next level and sort of say, okay, well, how is that appearing for you, and what does it mean for you, and what story are you telling yourself? Even if it's as simple as a beautiful plate of food arriving at your desk, releasing you to another hour of absolutely meaningless emails. I've enjoyed chatting again today, Karl.
As always. Podcast 11.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely.